Right, so, a game with absolutely nothing to comment on, a game that, wasn't anything by any means to shout home about, which just absolutely exploded into life after 65 minutes with Mohamed Salah putting Liverpool 1-0 ahead, and yeah, a 7-minute collapse from Liverpool against Leicester City at the King Power Stadium. Surely now, if there was any, flicker of hope for them in the title race, it's surely now been extinguished, and yeah, Leicester City 3, Liverpool 1, the game we are going to be analysing today. As I said, a very, dull game for the first hour, first 65 minutes, and yeah, since then, it just absolutely exploded into life. Liverpool collapsed and Leicester were just extremely clinical with their chances that they did get. So firstly, of course, we have to speak about Liverpool because they've just absolutely imploded in the Premier League in recent months, and yeah, actually I want to see where they are in the table at this moment in time. Of course, they do remain 4th in the league. They're only a point ahead of my club Chelsea, who do of course have a game in hand. West Ham the same. Everton have 3 games in hand over them, so Liverpool could potentially, if results don't go their way, find themselves down in 7th place in the Premier League table. I mean, that is just absolutely astonishing, especially with, even with the injuries they do have, which of course I will cut them slack for, but there's only so much sympathy you can give them for injuries. At the start of the season, even with all the injuries they did have, as I was saying, they did still look like champions. They still looked ruthless, they were still picking up points on a consistent basis, and they still, were odds-on favourites to win the Premier League title. But over Christmas, over the New Year period, and, apart from those games against West Ham and Spurs where they looked very good and obviously won both those games, Liverpool have really looked, flattered to deceive. They've looked really dull going forward, lacked creativity, lacked ideas, lacked invention. At the back, they're an absolute calamity, and of course for obvious reasons, but they got in Ozan Kabak today, and to be honest, I do kind of feel sorry for Ozan Kabak because it obviously was his Liverpool debut today, and it will coincide with a 7-minute collapse for Liverpool, and they conceded 3 goals late on, which, definitely shouldn't be happening for a title competitor in Liverpool and the reigning champions, who of course did so well to walk the league with ease last season. And yeah, all the headlines now will just be Ozan Kabak. He was, it's no coincidence that he comes into the team, we concede 3 goals, Ozan Kabak is this, he's that, and whatever. But to be honest, I actually feel bad for him because I don't think he actually put that much of a foot wrong in the game overall, and it was just, individual errors, and just errors as a full-back 4 that have cost Liverpool the game today. And it was a game, to be honest, that they really looked assured in Liverpool. For the first 60-65 minutes, before Mo Salah scored his goal, Liverpool were in control of the game. Leicester couldn't get anywhere near them. All they were doing was trying to lob the ball up to Jamie Vardy and hope that, once or twice he could get on the end of it and maybe get in behind and put it away. But Liverpool had the game by the scruff of the neck. They had the game exactly where they wanted it, and, Leicester couldn't actually get into Liverpool's half that often, passing the ball on the ground, because as I said, Liverpool had it so controlled, so assured, and then it all just suddenly collapsed with a free kick from James Maddison, which yes, caused a lot of controversy. And I will say this, I do think it was kind of a harsh decision. It's one of those ones where it's just, the rules are just so confusing now that, it could have been a goal, it might not have been a goal, but either way, Leicester City did get back on level terms with that James Maddison free kick. And then of course, it went from bad to worse, because Alisson, man, after that performance against Manchester City, I just thought that, he can't afford to make another mistake. And what does he do? He comes sprinting out of his box, clatters into Kabak, and Vardy of course gets a tap in. Now, I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans on social media blaming Kabak for this, which I think is extremely harsh, because let's be honest, what more, ask yourself this, Liverpool fans, what more can Ozan Kabak do in that situation? Because his goalkeeper's come out, he's come out and absolutely clattered him. First of all, he didn't need to do that. Kabak had the situation where he wanted it. Maybe he might have, miskicked the ball and let Vardy in. Yeah, that's why I just feel like it's really harsh to blame Kabak for that, because I don't think there's much else he could have done. And to be honest, I think Alisson has really had a rash moment. I think he's really panicked in that scenario, and of course with the blip in confidence he will have faced after that Manchester City game, I think it's no surprise whatsoever that he's come out and just acted rash like that. And yeah, at the end of the day, I think he is at fault for this Leicester City goal that they did score to put them 2-1 up. And then literally 3 minutes later, 4 minutes later, or whatever it was, Harvey Barnes goes through and slots it really coolly. Really poor from Liverpool again, trying to break through Leicester once again to try and obviously get that equalising goal, and a really sloppy pass from Salah in the middle of the park. Indeed, he plays it through to Harvey Barnes, who was really clinical, put it past Alisson, who couldn't really do anything about it, and that was Leicester City's 3 points sewn up in the bag. What a 7 minutes performance from Leicester City, because I actually will get onto it. As I said, I thought Liverpool controlled the majority of the game for the first hour especially, and Leicester just really couldn't get into the game. I mean, they weren't stringing their passes together, they weren't really trying to create any patterns of play, and overall really struggled, as I said, to break down this Liverpool attack. And that's why I just think that, Leicester City were completely and utterly handed the initiative by those Liverpool lapses of concentration, those Liverpool errors. And yeah, Leicester, it was a smash and grab if I've ever seen it, if I have to be totally honest, but I do think they deserved it in the end because of that Liverpool implosion, and because of the fact that Leicester, even, as much chances that they didn't really have, they were very clinical and did take their chances, and yeah, in the end did win by 3-1 of course. Check quickly, I just want to go back onto the lineups here, and I want to talk more about Liverpool, because I did say it in my match reaction for the Manchester City defeat on Sunday. I said that you can't really be playing Jordan Henderson in centre back, and to be honest, I don't know where Fabinho was, but I assume he's going to be he's injured. I just think that you have to get Jordan Henderson back into midfield as soon as possible, either Henderson or Fabinho, because, you know, I think there's absolutely no balance whatsoever in that Liverpool midfield, because Liverpool in the last few years, they've made their name off, you know, being very dogged in midfield, being very energetic, but that comes with a defensive-minded midfielder who will sit in front of the back four and, you know, kind of mop things up and, you know, give the attackers license to be creative and whatever. Whether that be Henderson or Fabinho, today they didn't have that in midfield because they had Wijnaldum, who's more of a box-to-box, Milner, who's a bit of a workhorse but isn't kind of that midfielder that's going to sit back and, you know, protect the back four, and Curtis Jones is more of an advanced playmaker who doesn't really do that much of the defensive duties, and even Thiago, who did come off the bench after 15 minutes, that took away your only actual, you know, proper, you could say a little bit of defensive solidity in James Milner, because Thiago was a very forward-thinking midfielder, even though he sits deep and kind of, you know, plays the ball forward to the Liverpool attackers. But that's one of the main problems, I think, with this Liverpool team, is the fact that those injuries they have defensively has meant that the likes of Henderson or Fabinho have to come back into centre-back, which means there's absolutely no balance whatsoever in midfield. But yeah, now we'll get back into Leicester, because I think we have to take into consideration as well that it was a very, very makeshift Leicester defence, because missing James Justin, of course, with an ACL injury, missing Timothy Castagna, and missing Wesley Fofana, who in my opinion has been one of the signings of the summer for Leicester. And yeah, missing those three players who are absolutely key for them. And if you go into the game, my man of the match, Wilfred Ndidi. I've said it so many times on this channel, Wilfred Ndidi is a pure world-class holding midfielder. I mean, that kind of tackle is absolutely unbreakable. He's unbelievable, and once again today he showed, you know, his abilities in winning the ball back. Literally every time Liverpool got the ball near his area of the pitch, he was straight on them like a dog. And yeah, I think Ndidi is extremely, extremely underrated. And to be honest, I would take him as a Chelsea fan at Chelsea in an absolute heartbeat. And to be honest, I think that if Manchester United were smart, they would, you know, use the Pogba money that they'll probably get in the summer, because I think Pogba will leave United in the summer. They'd use that money and go all out for Ndidi, because that is the exact type of player that Manchester United are missing at this moment in time. I think Maddison once again was really, really good. Harvey Barnes showing his work rate again. I think Kasper Schmeichel actually went under the radar today, because he made a lot of good saves, and yeah, pretty much kept Leicester in the game, to be honest, because as I said, Liverpool controlled the game for the majority of it, and I think Schmeichel made, you know, he definitely played his part in keeping Leicester in the game for the majority of it. And yeah, Leicester, they just have a really, really just beautiful team. I think that's the word I've described them so many times on this channel with the team they do have, because they're so perfectly balanced. You have, you know, the dogged energy of Vardy up front, who's so good at getting in behind, and his finishing is obviously second to none. The creativity of Maddison, Tielemans, who's just an elegant footballer, you know, is really good at passing from midfield, transition from defence to attack, and Ndidi, as I keep saying, just an incredible world-class ball winner. Soyuncu and Evans at centre-back, even without Fofana, who's a really good young talent. Ricardo Pereira, who was playing left-back, who I actually think did a very good job in marking Mohamed Salah, and I think it very much paid off the fact that he was a right footer playing at left-back, because of course Salah likes to cut in on his left foot. Then you have Schmeichel in goal, who's just an incredible shot stopper, and yeah, I just feel like Leicester, they're just a really good team, aren't they? And if we look at the table now again, Leicester, of course, are up to second in the Premier League. They do have 2 games more played than Manchester City, but they have cut the gap to 4 points. They won't win the Premier League, let's be honest here, but it does look like they've learned a lesson from last season when they absolutely collapsed and failed to get top 4, and I think that they will have learned a lesson this season, and I think they will claim top 4. But yeah, the top 4 race now is extremely hotting up, because we know that City are going to win the league now. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave this video. So if you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like. 20 likes as per usual would be massively appreciated by myself, and also if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be very much appreciated as well, because we are now looking to hit 1,500 subscribers as soon as we possibly can on this channel. So yeah, if you do hit that subscribe button, it would cost you absolutely nothing and would make my day. So this is very much a win-win situation, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Liverpool collapse in the space of 7 minutes at the King Power Stadium as Leicester go second in the Premier League, and yeah, see ya.